what I would like to do first off is to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And my crew already has done it, but we like to say it a lot, so we're going to do it again. Stand and turn to the flag.
Back here.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, what I would like to do is to take a moment of silence for those that we have lost. We've lost members, we've lost family members, and I would like to take just a silent moment to think of them in memory. And then I'm going to have Roger say a prayer. Next, I would like to thank everyone for coming out. It's kind of warm in here, but we're trying to use fans and keep it cool. We are very excited to have our son, First Sergeant Dominic DiFatta, from 101st Airborne out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I am going to let him continue and take over the mic, and then I'll come back again. With a warm welcome, let's welcome First Sergeant DiFatta.
I guess I'll start by saying, thanks for coming out tonight. This has been something that's been in the works for a while to get this kind of lined up with the schedule here for these military appreciation nights and my schedule down at Fort Campbell. So it worked out really well, and my wife and I, Jessica, over there sitting down, we're excited to be here as well, because I think it's important. Every time we come to Macon, we always come through the Historical Society here, and it's usually once a year for 4 or 5 days we're able to spend time with family in Macon. And every time we come up here, there's something new with the Historical Society here. It's just amazing. So hats off to Sally and the team up here to keep it going, because I think this is probably the most important part of the community here in Macon, and communities from across the country as well, because it's important to know about the history, and you don't know how many people in that community has had sacrifices and ties to the military. So yesterday we got in and actually got a little tour. The military room downstairs is phenomenal. It just keeps adding to it. And every time I come here also, I learn something new. And it's it's something I look forward to, not only spending time with family, but coming here and kind of seeing all the new donated goods and services. But anyway, I think it's just true testament to the community, level of support for keeping something like this going, as well as preserving the history of our military. But I really didn't know what I was going to talk about. I said, Mom, what am I going to talk about? I mean, I don't know really everybody. I know a few people. But she said, just normally it's Military Appreciation Night. You got to know your audience and know what the theme is. It's like Speech 101. So I was like, okay. So I started just writing down notes, and of course, the brains of my operation, my wife, just tell them where you're stationed at and where you've been at. What's your story? So I first came in the military, in the Army in 1997 from Wentzville, Missouri. I was in and out of, after high school, I attended college, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and see what this thing's about. Those be all you can be Army commercials at 2 in the morning got me to go to the recruiter station. I think I fell asleep for a few of the sections on the ASVAB, and I missed a few of the test answers and qualified for one job. That job was a cook. Wasn't bad, you know. I grew up around, you know, lots of family, lots of food, lots of holidays. So I was like, I guess I'll give it a try. So I joined the Army as a cook back then, and went to basic training at Fort Jackson in January of '97. From there, after it was a co-ed basic, so you know, it had males and females, and don't take this out of context, but after basic, I did not want to talk to another female for a while. We were always getting smoked for them being late to formation, or they didn't do barracks maintenance right, or something, and it was constant headaches. But we fought through the 8 weeks of pain together, and graduated. I was really done when we went to the field for our final field problem, and we're digging in foxholes, and I was appointed a squad leader. And the only thing we had to have on us was our pro mask, our gas mask on our hip, and our weapon within arm's reach. While we're digging, we could not take our mask off, but we can keep our weapon that had blanks and everything in it for, you know, reacting to an attack or whatever scenario the drill sergeants want to throw at us. But day one, I'm highly allergic to poison ivy, so I was like, well, at least I won't get that. Being an infantry guy, I'll be a cook, I'll stay away from poison ivy. And anyway, long story short, basic training, about the third day, I was like, man, my back is killing me. And my battle buddy said, well, what's wrong? Did you do field hygiene right? I was like, yeah, I did it right. I did exactly what they told me to do. And he said, let me see under your shirt. So he said, oh man, you gotta go tell drill sergeant. You gotta go tell him. I was like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. We're like 3 days from graduation. I do not want to go to sick call for nothing and go recycle. But I went up there, and drill sergeant's reaction when I showed him I had poison ivy. It started from one side, and because of the strap of my mask, it would spread and all this stuff. And he said, I said, drill sergeant, my back is killing me. Well, let's see it. And you know, all hard and stuff. And I lifted my shirt, and his reaction, I'll never forget. He looked back and said, good God, son, get on the truck. And I was like, but I don't want to. I need to rock march back, right? And get on the. You know, he had some choice words. Get on the truck, private. But that was kind of like the foundation of drill sergeant. I knew that I wanted to be one day, and it was years later where I had the opportunity. But after basic, I went to AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, to learn my MOS, my job as a cook, and working in the dining facilities, cooking mass quantity meals for 300-400 people a meal. And that was in 23rd Quartermaster over there at Fort Lee, Virginia. I remember I had a pass, and my grandma and grandpa, raise your hand over there, there she is. So they was like, hey, we're traveling in North Carolina, we're gonna come visit you. And man, I was high on the hog that day, because I got a 6-hour pass. And as soon as I was waiting for them to let me go, I can see their van, and they signed me out, and I ran out, and I said, let's go get some pizza, I need something to eat. And they took me to get some pizza, and it was a good visit, and all my battle buddies in the barracks were like, oh man, this is wrong, bring back something. I said, no, can't do it, it's contraband. But anyway, Fort Campbell, or after AIT, I went to airborne school at Fort Benning. Injured myself during a PLF, parachute landing fall, practicing for those. And they sent me a sick call, wound up going on what's called a profile, where you can't really finish the course until you're done with your physical therapy or whatever. And I said, well, I'm not going back through all that, because I was like on day 7, it's like a 15-day course. And So he says, well, you're going to take orders anywhere in the world. I says, well, okay. Just a 21-year-old private, not really knowing. And we're all standing in line, and, you know, Private James, you're going to Korea. Private DiFatta, Fort Campbell. And I was like, where's Fort Campbell? And it worked out because it was 4 hours from St. Louis, and that's where Jess and I really started connecting more. So I was assigned to Fort Campbell. I went to air assault school, which is returning from helicopters and doing sling loads in 1998. From there, probably in the field a lot. I was in 3rd Brigade, Rakasans. Some of you may have been familiar with what the Rakasans are capable of. I married Jess, started a family. My daughter Isabella was born, and then I re-enlisted for Fort Lewis. Went to Fort Lewis. Well, yeah, I won't say that story of Fort Campbell, but Fort Campbell was as a private, it was very hard. It was, I couldn't stand the place. I didn't have the maturity, and I was still a young soldier, and you know, we worked a lot of hours in the DFAC, a lot of hours in the field, and you know, we had a lot of issues with discipline amongst the platoon. So I was ready to leave when my re-enlistment window came open. Went to Fort Lewis, Washington. It's up there. It's about an hour and a half south of Seattle. We PCS'd, which is everyone knows what that is, but if you don't, it's a permanent change of station. And we drove from Fort Campbell to Fort Lewis, Washington. It took us 3 days with a young daughter, stopping every 8 hours, you know, during the winter months. It was like January, and going through the mountains. So we're going through Wenatchee, and well, the highway we hit, you could see it forked off. One direction was Oregon, and the other direction was to Seattle. And I saw this big snow storm cloud, and I says, I think I'll go to the right, because that's down that way. Well, by the time we got up to Wenatchee National Forest, that storm was on us, and Jess was really nervous about driving through the snow, much less we were in a Toyota Camry with no four-wheel drive, had it loaded down with a bunch of weight. And I remember going up the mountain really slow, no tire chains, coming down, just coasting down. And I was like, don't worry about it, babe. You know, growing up in Missouri, I'm good to go. I can drive in snow. I'm good. And she's like, no, this isn't safe. And I knew it wasn't safe when I saw a minivan going down backwards. I'm like, oh, see, they messed up. They turned the wheels the wrong way. They're not gonna get it. But we finally got out of the mountains and got to Seattle. Checked in there. Fort Lewis, I was assigned to 3rd Brigade, 2nd ID. It was General Shinseki was the Chief of Staff of the Army at the time, and he was making a lot of changes. That's when the Army went to the Berets. He went to the whole Stryker vehicles instead of the Humvees and all that. So I went from 6 months of the year in the field to transformation of a Stryker Brigade, and didn't go to the field for 2 years. We just trained up on the new equipment, which was nice for starting a new family. But my son was born there, Rocco. He was born over there in 2002, and then we PCS'd from Hawaii in late 2002 after he was born. But up at Fort Lewis, I did a lot of culinary arts things. Every year, Fort Lee hosts a culinary arts show over there. It's the biggest culinary arts show in the country. Every installation sends a team of 12 to 15 people. And anyway, we went over there and we did pretty well. PCS to Hawaii. Well, actually, the Army was handing out a lot of bonuses back then too. And I finally got my first bonus. I couldn't imagine, like, all these privates were coming in, don't know nothing, and they're getting like $20,000, $10,000 bonuses. And I was like, man, I missed the boat. I must have got the wrong job or something. But anyway, I come back in from something and I stopped by a recruiter station, and they offered us a bonus and Hawaii. So I said, my wife was like, hell yeah, let's go. So we went to Hawaii. So our next adventure of a PCS with a young child, my son, what was he, like 3 weeks old, in a plane from Seattle to Honolulu, crying the whole time. I finally just sat separate from them, like I don't know them. But we got to Hawaii, they packed us in the van and had like 3 other families in us, and then we were stuck in lodging for 54 days. 54 days in a hotel room with 2 small children. And I was just a sergeant. I made sergeant in May before I left in 2001. So I'd always go check with housing. Hey, is there a house available? Is there a house available? No, not this week. It's not available. Not available. Well, when you PCS overseas, you get 60 days of temporary lodging expense. And I was at 54, and that's where they pay for your lodging. And after 60, you have to pay for it yourself. And as an E5, young family, that wasn't going to happen with Mama Bear over there. So she's 54. On the 53rd day, I said, I'm going to housing tomorrow. Well, I'm coming with you. I'm going to talk to those guys. Well, she went in there and shedded a few tears, and it worked. And next thing you know, we had a house. And I was like, dang, you should have came with me 3 weeks ago. But I knew the power of Household 6. That's the commander of every household in the military. Call signs in the military, you guys know. It's 6 is the commander, 7's the first sergeant or the sergeant major. But anyways, we finally got there. I was assigned to headquarters troop, 3-quarter cav, over there on Wheeler Army Airfield. If you ever seen the movie Pearl Harbor, Wheeler is where the planes actually take off from to counterattack, and they actually filmed it right on that field, which was kind of nice to be. It's kind of cool to be a part of that, or not part of it, but just to know that hey, I saw that part in the movie, But I was a night baking NCOIC, and night baking, you cook all the pastries, all the biscuits, everything for the next day. You prep all the omelet ingredients and all that. And we did a few good things for holidays like Thanksgiving and things like that for all the soldiers. And then one week I got a call to go down to USARPAC. And USARPAC is a U.S. Army Pacific Command down at Fort Shafter. And Shafter was filmed in the movie Pearl Harbor as well. And I go down there and interview for, there was a 3-star general named Lieutenant General James Campbell. He was a USARPAC commander, and I was being looked at to run his Distinguished Visitors Quarters protocol, NCO. And it was a team of us that would take care of anybody that comes into Hawaii, whether it be from Japan, Thailand, Indian Army generals, dignitaries from DC or other generals around the globe. And they would fly in, and one of my jobs was to go pick them up, bring them to their hotel, make sure they're set up on the computer or whatever, and then give them an itinerary. So, today I was a night baking NCO, and then next week I'm actually feeding General Shinseki. And I was really nervous. I was like, oh man, I'm just a sergeant. I can make some good biscuits. I don't know about all this fancy stuff for the boss. And anyways, it was a very, very honorable position. Good people to work for. And I went there, exposed to protocol ops, Republic of China Army, the Indian Army generals. They would want to present wreaths of honor to the memorials around there, like USS Arizona, and I would be at the front of that, accepting the wreath from them, and just being exposed to something like that. It was pretty enlightening. So then a few years later, that was 2000, to 2005, and around 2005 I got a call to go to DC. And I was like, all right, so I go up to DC and interview with, at the time was 4-star General Cody. He was 101st Airborne Commander. He was a historical leader in the Army. He actually was, he's a Apache helicopter pilot by trade. And he fired the first rounds during Desert Storm. The first rounds that left the helicopter was from him, and it was he was a lieutenant colonel at the time. So, you know, I got to get an interview with him, and it was me from Hawaii, and they flew this other guy from Germany to interview to be one of his aides. And this guy from Germany had more experience. You know, he came with this menu book, his pictures of all these things, and he was like, "Do you bring one?" I'm like, "No, I didn't bring that. I didn't know what you're talking about. I'm done. I ain't gonna make this. I guess I'm going back to Hawaii," which wasn't too bad, right? So I get in there, and you know, he gets a Diet Coke, and got him in one seat. I'm in my A's, and I'm in the Pentagon for the first time. Like, this is crazy. I didn't think I'd be walking in these doors any day. But I went up there, and you know, our personalities meshed more than anything. And while I was working for him, they wound up hiring me. I worked for him for about 3 years, 2 years, 9 months to be exact. Did a lot of dinners, met a lot of celebrities, fed, you know, like Winona Judd, she's a character. I was serving her, and she was like, she kept stacking her plates, and you know, formal dining, you don't touch your plates. You have your forks, your knives, everything for every course. And I says, "Ma'am, you don't have to stack your stuff." She's like, she looks up to me and says, "Oh, I'm a stacker." And I says, "Okay, you can do whatever you want. Thank you for help." And we went to 1 year Indy 500, flying over there to the Indy 500 for, you know, the militaries. They always put on a big show, whether they're doing helicopters or you know, the honor guard. You got the National Guard there, and that's pretty much before any NASCAR or Indy race. But I was actually in the pagoda. I had Gene Simmons had a whole row. What's his name from Reservoir Dogs? I can't remember his name. Michael Madsen. I was playing with his kid, and then but the day prior they do the parade through downtown Indy. And I come into this holding area, and there's Winona Judd, or Ashley Judd, yeah, not Winona. So there's Ashley Judd, and I'm just a staff sergeant. My wife's at home. I'm a good husband. It's like, "Oh, Judd, what?" And well, the Codys and the Judds are really good friends, and they have pictures of the Judd family, and part of my duties is go around, make sure the official areas are clean, and I would dust, and I'd see Ashley picture with her husband, the IndyCar driver. Can't remember his name right now, but anyway, I didn't know what to say. I saw her, she turned around, she had a sundress on, his bonnet, she looked around at me, you know, she's like this tall, and I said, "Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant DiFatta. I dust your picture every day." And she thought I was the weirdest, creepiest dude. And my buddy, the comments, I was like, "What did you just say?" And I was like, "I don't even know. Let's get some water, I'm dizzy." But the next day in the pagoda, she saw me, and she realized, you know, I was one of the aides for the Codys, and she come over to me, and I'm like sitting down, and she's walking closer, and I'm like thinking, "Oh gosh, she's getting closer, And she comes up, and she reaches up, and she gives me a kiss on the cheek, and I was like, "Did that really just happen?" I was keeping my composure. "Oh, nice to meet you, thank you. I come home from that trip, and it was like 10:30 at night. Jess is at the door, she opens it up, helps me with my luggage, and before I even kissed her, I said, "Ashley Judd kissed me today." And she was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, let me tell you, and it was like, we didn't go to bed at midnight because I was so high on life. I was like, I can't believe this. But funny stories like that happen all the time. I mean, I went around to London, I traveled with him. I was just travel NCO. Did a lot of things with General Cody. And So then he was getting ready to retire. Oh, well, one story I did want to share because I think it's fitting. One of the trips I did with General Cody, he was the 31st Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, by the way. He was part of the ceremony for opening up the Brooke Army Medical Center down in San Antonio for all the wounded warriors. It's where they go. They dedicated it. It's called the Center for the Intrepid, which mirrors the New York Intrepid. Fisher House has a lot to do with all those facilities for caring for our wounded. And Mr. Fisher, met him. I met a lot of celebrities there, Denzel Washington, all these guys. And of course, when you're the aide, you're just holding the bag and you're kind of in the back, and you can't really say too much because you represent your boss. But these guys kept coming up to anybody and everybody in uniform. And we had a dinner with wounded. I mean, you had anything from burn victims to amputees. I mean, it was just a very enlightening part of my career because it put a lot of things in perspective. But the next day, the guest speaker was General Peter Pace. He's a Marine Corps general, retired. He was the chairman of Joint Chief of Staff. And one of the things that he said during the dedication, the opening of the BAMC, every soldier or family member of the wounded or knew of the wounded battle buddy, these guys were lined up and they wheeled them or helped them out in front of the stage where Peter Pace was speaking. So if you can imagine that, something like this, and in front here is wounded warriors of every branch of service, different conflicts, different times, but they're actually at Brooke Army Medical Clinic recovering and getting the care they need. And Peter Pace was talking, and behind him, you have all the dignitaries and celebrities who want to donate money and all that, and just people of all walks of life. And one of the things when I heard Peter Pace speak was, wouldn't it be amazing, all these warriors sitting out front of me, if we could somehow bridge the gap where no one looks at them like a pity. There's no pity for them. They didn't lose their eye or lost an arm or they didn't lose anything. If only, he said, if only we could think about the perspective from the warrior, is that they don't think like that. They think like they gave their arm or their eyesight, or just use your imagination. But I mean, he really hit it home and kind of opened up the doors for a different way of thinking. But we left there, and General Cody's about to retire, and he asked me what I wanted to do. I said, well, I want to go be a drill sergeant. I always wanted to do that. And up to this point, I went where the Army told me, and this is the only thing I really did for myself. So in 2007, 2009, I was at Fort Leonard Wood, down here in Missouri, and in 2 years, I did 10 cycles, a little over 240 soldiers per cycle, so it's a little over 2,000 privates that came in, and also re-enlisted indefinite and decided to make a career. I was about 10 years at the time, and I had to make a decision. So if you go over 10 years, you're a career soldier. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to finish what I started, and I went back to jump school. So I went to Fort Benning again. I finally graduated jump school, and the first time I jumped out of the aircraft, it was probably the most natural adrenaline rush you can imagine. But yeah, I went after the Fort Leonard Wood. I can tell you like thousands of stories of these privates, but it's not suiting for this environment. But I don't know. Do you want to hear any of those stories? We can talk offline, but anyway, from there I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. served in 3rd Brigade, Panther Brigade for a little while as a platoon sergeant, and then went to division. A new division commander was coming in, and he was looking for an aide. I was already on ground. The division commander that was coming in was Lieutenant General retired Huggins. So James L. Huggins was coming in to replace General Scaparrotti. And he called me up to his office, and I had a few other competitors, but I was told to start working for him. I said, well, Roger, sir. But during that time, we deployed together to Kandahar, Afghanistan, 2011, 2012. We had a lot of airborne conventions that we went to, where we mingled with veterans from the past. And the biggest highlight was going to the 67th anniversary of D-Day. And we went over there as a team of about 5 or 6 of us, if we included the Sergeant Major, but Sergeant Major was on his own. He can blend in with us if he needs to, but he was a big guy. He can do whatever he wanted, so I say 5 or 6. So anyway, we get over there to fly into Paris, go up to Normandy, and if you ever have the chance, or even if you want to YouTube it, the videos of the ceremonies over there, it's all about reenactments. The whole town of Macon, for example, is compared to the whole town of Saint-Mary-Église in France. And every one of us would be in World War II fatigues. There was a lot of vehicles that the Allies left over there, so there's a lot of Jeeps that are refurbished to fit the time. There's a lot of Harleys that fits the time, and all these people in character, in the whole uniform and everything. It's like their 4th of July, because Americans liberated the town of Saint-Mary-Église and a lot of places in Normandy, France. So we go over there, and I'm just like, wow, this is a fairy tale. This is unbelievable. And the top speed of these Jeeps are like 35 miles per hour, but they still filled like 20 people in those things. They was packing tight. Then we had the humbling experience to go up to the actual beaches, and Omaha, Utah, and just kind of reflect on those places. We made our ways over to Pointe du Hoc. It's a popular story with the Ranger battalions that climb this huge cliff. And Pointe du Hoc was still to this day have bunkers that are burnt out, charred out from artillery. And the ground is whelped, big holes from the shells hitting the ground. And there's just this aura about that place and the beaches. So that was a pretty good experience. But as we were walking up from the parking lot, we're in France, okay? And there's this car with this picture on the back. We're getting closer. And I'm like, I know that guy. This French vehicle had a picture of Chuck Norris on the back of his window. I was like, I know we're in the right place now, because we're really big fans of Chuck Norris in the military. I mean, we always do Chuck Norris quotes and things like that, but we actually stopped and took a picture of that, but it was fun to go over there. So during deployment, 2012, my boss at the time, Major General Huggins, was nominated by Congress to go work in the Pentagon again, or to go work in the Pentagon, which would mean I'm going back again. And I was like, I don't know, I kind of did that. I'm good. And anyways, we returned from deployment with PCS to DC. Was promoted to Master Sergeant in November 2013. He recently retired, but he let me go last August to further my career, and currently I'm at Fort Campbell as a first sergeant in 1st Brigade, Bastogne. So, I mean, that's pretty much where my career started and where it's at now. I don't know how much further it's going to go, but like I was telling Jay over here earlier, I guess I'll just keep going until I can't pass up the 20-year-olds running on the streets of Tennessee and Indiana. But, you know, one of the other things that's important that I really wanted to come up is that, you know, we're approaching a big day, a big time in our Army. And, you know, the Army birthday is on Sunday, 240 years. You know, it's 1775, you know, the Continental Army was constituted. And, you know, that was kind of important to hit the benchmark to come up here and kind of get to know everybody that means so much to Sally, Ron, and my mom and Dad, Ron. So, you know, it's just been a pleasure really to come up here, and I'm glad it worked out. And so many occasions that are going on in conjunction with the Army's birthday. While I've been at Fort Campbell, I been involved with survival outreach services. They sent me to this casualty notification class, casualty assistance officer class, in the event of casualty or someone, family member, anything, to go ahead and provide that service through the survivor outreach services. There's a really good clip. Gary Sinise, he's another guy that I met before, but you know, he sponsors that. The Lieutenant Dan Band, if you guys don't, he was a lieutenant on Forrest Gump. But he says, and I'm just I kind of took it and ran with it on my own. But you know, honor our fallen military heroes and respect the Gold Star families for their sacrifice and strength. There's a little video online that I came across that it really hits it home on different different age groups, the children, the parents. But I recently volunteered for TAPS, and that's Tragedy Assistance Program for family members of the fallen, the loved ones who are left to bear the weight. And TAPS was started as an organization that started in 1992. And in 1992, Brigadier General Carroll crashed in an airplane crash up in Alaska. His wife, Bonnie, was trying to find some type of resource. Well, resources for casualties really didn't go past the ramp ceremonies or funerals and military honors. So she started this TAPS, and what it is it just recently came to Fort Campbell, and a few of us guys down there volunteered for it. And you're actually a mentor to the family members, the kids, the loved ones that are left, the parents, and they separate you based on your preference, what your comfort zone is, and it's a really, really great organization. But Bonnie Carroll was, she's been featured in, Time magazine, and, I think that the title of that magazine was Heroes Among Us. And I just shared that with you because I think there's a lot of passion in this room that share the same traits of, lots of heroes among us. And, with the Patriot Guard Riders, the job that they do, the family members, the community support, it's just, you can't help but be proud of, where you're from, Macon. So, I don't know, I just kind of wanted to hit that a little bit because it has impacted my life. When I volunteered and became a mentor to a few kids, he asked me, if I'd go to a soccer game, and I went to one of his soccer games, and he just was on cloud nine. So I think that's kind of like the meaning of impacting others and taking time away from your own schedule to kind of give back and make a difference somehow. But I don't know. I do have a book here that I brought. It's called The Reasons Why. This is a book that my last boss, General Huggins, compiled throughout his whole career. He served like 36 years, and he actually jumped into Panama. So right off the bat, I had respect for him. He had this book, and every speech, every ceremony he'd been to, he'd write it down in this little book. And then in Afghanistan, as the team, we compiled it and made this book, and then we gave it to him, and then he wound up making more copies and gave it to everyone else. Why not, right? I mean, all these great stories. But I made some highlights. If you don't mind, I'll read a few things that kind of I thought was appropriate. This one I came across in here, kind of hits home, or directed in my mind, I think, for this occasion, to Gold Star families here and throughout the country. But the true test of civilizations is not the census nor the size of cities, nor the crops, no, but the kind of man the country turns out. That's a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. To the Patriot Guard, God grants liberty only to those who love it and are always ready to guard and defend it. Daniel Webster. Kind of bridging what General Peter Pace said, but this is a quote by Cervantes. The soldier who dies in battle is more to be admired than the one who lives. That's kind of a warrior's mindset, if you will. I think that's how we all think in the service. This one I just made a tab. I thought it was awesome. This one's by General George Patton. We're going through them like crap through a goose. That one, he actually said that. I thought that was pretty awesome to share. Most of you probably like, man, it's hot in here, I'm ready to go. But the last one, I think, is to the Macon County Historical Society. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And that's by George Santayana, The Life of Reason, in 1906. But there's so many stories and things in here. My mom and I actually, before we left DC, were touring the monuments one last time in the National Mall. And where is she? Yeah, so we were walking, and you can tell this guy was a World War II vet. I mean, you just knew it, the way he walked, the way he carried himself. And he walked up past us, and he just stopped, take a break, and he started a conversation. He says, "What are you guys doing out here?" I says, "Well, what are you doing out here, sir? What are you doing?" And we were in civilian clothes. I mean, nobody really knew anybody. We sat down and had a chat. Come to find out, he was part of the Monuments Men. He was there visiting the monuments, and he was part of the Monuments Men. And he started telling us a story. Yeah, you videoed it and posted it on Facebook, and everyone saw it. But for those of you that didn't, this guy said it was like the last day, and he was going in. He just wanted a break. nonstop, fighting day after day. And he came across a salami sandwich, and he just wanted to eat that sandwich. And so he went down to the river, and he wanted to find a good spot to sit. And up comes a German boat with like 3 German soldiers. And he's just thinking, he told us this, these are his exact words. He says, I'm just thinking to myself, dang, I'm never gonna eat this sandwich. And all he wanted to do. So the boat came up. Now they're in a gunboat. They're obviously outpower them with combat power, and it's 3-1. And he's tired and fatigued, and he just wants to eat that sandwich. And he just pulls his gun out and says, as he pulled into the dock, they didn't know the monuments men already took it, or were already there, so they were pulling into the dock, and he just drew his gun on them and said, give me all your weapons and your uniforms, and get out of here. And they did. And his son was with him too. And he says, I knew I was going to get my sandwich today. I knew it. That's what he said. And his son said, you know, as amazing as that story is, to just be able to stop doing what you're doing and just enjoy the moment with the sandwich, for example. Disarmed 3 guys on a boat and sent them on their way. Now, if those 3 German soldiers are still alive, imagine what the stories they have for that day. You know, oh, there we were riding on the river, going to make another run, get some more art or whatever, and this crazy American disarms us, takes our jackets, and lets us go. I don't understand what happened, but, you know, into telling his grandkids that or whatever. I think it would, he said, I think it would be interesting if we ever met. And I said, well, you should try to do that. But anyway, that was probably one of the highlight stories before we left DC that you were part of. But I don't really know what else to say. I'll open floor for any questions if anybody wants.
What year was that? A couple years ago or what?
That was in 2000. That was July 2012. No, sorry, 2014. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Anybody else have anything? I know it's hot. Yes, ma'am.
Where was your family when you were being transferred all
The question was, where was my family when I was being transferred all around? My family traveled with me everywhere we went. Except, what? Well, yeah, except Afghanistan, yeah.
Well, I think we should give her the wives that are
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up, man, because I think that is the rock of every person who serves. Every soldier, civilian, is that strength from home, that the family core values, the love in the house, and just creating memories together and things like that. And the Army is a different lifestyle for sure, especially when you're raising a family and deciding to make a career out of it. But I don't think I would change it. We've lived in places that we've never thought was possible. We've exposed our kids to many different cultures. Thank you. Different people, different lifestyles, and I think they recognized it, and they've learned a lot. So I think that things like that is kind of priceless. But what's really funny is the foundation at home, the roots of your family. Because no matter where we're stationed, we're always going to come home and visit. And they always look forward to visiting and seeing their cousins, Nick and Elena, and Aunt Amy, and Grandma and Grandpa's. But those, without that foundation that we all bring to the table before we send our sons and daughters off, is, it's kind of, it gets confusing. And, but without Jessica, my wife Jessica, my 2 children, you know, obviously I would probably sleep in. You know, I would be like, I'm not going to work today. Those guys can run. I'm not done. I'm done with it. But it's kind of the driving force. And then, of course, wanting to see your family and remember how you were raised. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because it does mean a lot. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for your time. What?
Okay, what I have, we would like to hand out some certificates to show the Macon County Historical Society our appreciation for your service. And if I could have a few of you, the Patriot Guard Riders, to hand this out to Larry Page, U.S. Navy. And raise your hand, because some of them don't know. Edith Harrington, Army. She's right there. This one's going to be easy. First Sergeant Dominic DiFatta. Fiddle Teeter, Naval Air Force. Ralph Klusman, Army. William J. Gallup, Army. He's over here. 101st Cavalry. George Morganworth, Army. Roger Smith, U.S. Air Force. Ron Anderson, Army. Richard Skaggs, U.S. Coast Guard. He's over there. Randy King, Air Force, Army. Roger Rader, Army. Bill Weldon, USMC. And Larry Mullinex, Army. None. And do you have anybody else? Did you miss anybody? Did you get everybody? Okay. The next thing that I would like to do is to present this to our Gold Star families. And the first one is to Sally Watts for Robert Allen and Spock. This one is for Lance Corporal Rex Arthur Page, presented to Larry, Edie, and James Page. And tomorrow is also a sign dedication for them in Kirksville if anyone would like to attend at 11:30. This one is for Robert E. Howard, presented to Karina Hurley. And with that being said, we have an extreme amount of patriotism in the Macon County area. Every time we have a mission, I send an email to Merlin. She gets it posted. Every time there's folks out here holding flags. Even my father-in-law that's had a terrible time and got broken up feet, he's out there holding that flag. And busted knee even, but he's out there holding that flag. So, and along with everybody else that has issues. With a smile on his face, you betcha. So, many years ago, there was several of the ones like Robert and both Roberts that didn't have any Patriot Guard to escort them to their final resting place. So, with that, I would like to have Rexted. At 11, okay, sorry, okay. But if I could have Larry and Karina and Sally come up here, please. The Patriot Guard was actually started in October 2005. This is just a token of our appreciation for your sacrifices and family from the Patriot Guard Riders. I can give one of my This is something that we do in the services a lot of times for families. Oh, okay, it has a flag on the front with PGR USA, and on the back it says, "Rest easy, you are going home, brother, Patriot Guard Riders." A lot of you may remember Karina from last year with her program with her uncle that she found after 69 years. A lot of you were here when they found that.
For those of you that remember the service that we had in Moulton, Iowa for my uncle that was lost in World War II, we had the burial service of the remains that were identified in Moulton, Iowa, July 19th last year. On May the 27th, the day after Memorial Day, I took my mom and my uncle to Arlington, and they did a full service ceremony for him, and he's buried in Section 60 in Arlington. In that grave will be the remains that they were not able to identify. So they did an intimate burial there, and that was one of the most incredible experiences ever in my life. They treated, talking about CAOs, those CAOs have I have the utmost respect for them. They treated us like we were gold. Like this soldier had just come home yesterday. It was absolutely amazing. Those people could not get enough praise. CAOs have taken care of us from day one and made sure that we were treated right for our loss. So thank you again.
Give me that mic. 9 years ago this month, we met the Patriot Guard. 265 motorcycles and 400 riders escorted us from Kirksville to Jacksonville Veterans Cemetery. And I learned something that day. These guys behind me, I lovingly tell them that they are Missouri's biggest group of misfits, screw-ups, and rednecks, but you gotta love them. You gotta love them. And the biggest redneck of them all is my brother Doug.
And again, the sign dedication tomorrow is at 11 in Kirksville, Missouri, at the Amphitheater Rotary Park. So with that, I think we're about done. If you would like to close us out in a prayer.
Father, again, it's our privilege to come to you to ask your blessings on this group. We especially ask your blessings upon the Gold Star families. We ask that blessing for deeper peace. We ask, Father, that you continue to be with our active duty people and watch over each and every one and bring them home. We ask that you be with our riders tonight as we head home. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
And afterwards, if anybody would like to come and look at the military room, that would be great. Sally and I have worked hard on it here the past couple of days, and there's been several others that have too. And we appreciate everybody's help. And CNR was kind enough to give us a cake tonight, so I'd like to thank them and everybody for coming. Thank you very much.